on you. All right, there we go. There we go. Good to see y'all. Hey, so really excited to jump in as we continue this series called Boss. Who's a boss out here? Anybody a boss out here, right? And we've been talking about these things that can boss our lives around, and if we're not careful about them, they can ruin our lives. And so this has really been a good thing. You know, this past week, a couple weeks ago, I actually saw the boss that we're going to talk about tonight making a huge impact on my son. How many of you guys know my son, Colby? Anybody? Okay. Here's a picture of him. He's a 6-year-old little rascal here, and we'll have the picture up there in a second. But one of the things I love about Colby is, but you know, he also has this big heart. And out of that big heart, when he does something wrong, he really experiences it, okay? Like the other day, he came into our room late at night, and he's just reaching that age where he's kind of figured out words you're not supposed to say. You know, I remember the days where he's like, "Dad, do you know what the S word is?" And I'm like, "No, what is it?" And he's like, "Stupid." And we don't say stupid because in our family, we just talk about we want our words to build up and not tear down. Now, he started to discover some of the other words, the ones you really don't want to say, if you know what I mean. And he knows that, hey, those aren't things that we want to say around our house. So he comes into our room like with this panic-stricken, worried, shocked face. He was like terrified. And Chris and I were like, "What is going on? Are you okay, bud?" And he's like, "Oh my gosh, I said something I shouldn't have said." Like, I kid you not, like his entire body was like overwhelmed because he had said something he shouldn't say. And we were like, "It's okay. You can tell us. It's no big deal." And he's like, "No, I can't tell you. It was so bad and I can't tell you. And I'm so bad." You know, and then he calls himself stupid and he's like overwhelmed by this moment. And we're like, "Hey, buddy, we all make mistakes. Mommy and daddy, we say stupid things." I'm like, "I said this today, and it's okay. We just got to confess it and deal with it. It's okay." And so finally, after like fighting us for several minutes, he's like, "Okay, I'll tell you what I said." And then he's like, "I said Ecclesiastes." Like, I kid you not, this was my face. I'm like, "Bro, that's a book in the Bible, okay? Why do you think that's a big word?" He's like, "No, Dad, I said Ecclesiastes." Seriously, he thought he was going to be in so much trouble. He was so worried about what was about to happen to him because the sound of a bad word was in the middle of another word, okay? This is crazy. He was so worried about absolutely nothing because he didn't do anything wrong. But you know what? It shows something. It's something I think you and I can relate to. It's this thing about us that we worry, right? Any of y'all worry about things, stress about things? We worry. How many of you guys worry about things that aren't even reality? You know, they're never going to happen, but maybe what if they could? And so you stress out. Okay, we deal with worry. And I think we all relate to what he deals with. So I want to hear some of the things that you worry about tonight. I actually asked a couple of people to come up here and help me. Maggie's going to help me, and Katie is going to help me. Katie, wherever you are, you up here, come on up. And they're going to help write down some things y'all struggle with when it comes to worry that you or a friend you know, if you don't want to admit it, that's fine. But they're going to get on either side of the board. I'm just going to tell them. So throw out to me, what are some of the things that you these days worry about? Yeah. Okay, attitude. So we'll just kind of bounce back and forth. What else? Getting bullied. Okay, bullies. Okay, we worry about bullies. Yeah. College. Okay, we worry about college. College. Did you find one that works yet? So bullying over here, college over here. All right. Yeah. Yeah. People. What do you mean? The wrong people, how they're going to treat you. Okay, worry about how people are going to treat you. Yeah. Okay, you worry about like war. You worry about our world just crumbling. Yeah. Grades. All right? Grades. How are we doing keeping up with all that? I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you. All right, you're doing good. You're doing good. All right. Yeah, back here. Okay, being a Broncos fan. So you worry about your terrible sports teams. All right, yeah. Just playing. I'm playing. Yeah. What? School. Okay, worried about school. Yeah. Okay, seriously, what are real things you worry about? All right, now we've kind of talked about some of the funny things. Let's get real. What are the things you're stressing about? Okay, what'd you say? Death, okay. Just the reality that life is not permanent. Yeah. Okay, worried about relationships. Relationships with family, definitely, that can be tough. Anybody else? Yeah. What's that? Drowning, okay? Worried about like things that could happen to you. Like there are a lot of things we worry about, right? So we got a relationship. We got some different things here. Now I wanna have a vote, okay? If this is something that you've worried about in the last, yeah, go ahead and write that one up, peer pressure. If this is something you've worried about in the last month, I want you to raise your hand. And I'm just I haven't even told you what it is. So not all of them. Sorry, I'll tell you. That wasn't very clear. All right. So how many of you guys have worried about like your attitude in the last month? Okay. All right. So I'd say about 30%, right? That's the attitude. About bullying. How many of you guys are worried about bullying? How people treat you? Bullying. All right. Let's go about 40% there. How many of you guys worry about relationships? How many of you guys are worried about relationships in your life? All right. That's like 75%. Okay. How about how many of you guys are worried about like death and things going on in our world, like that affects you? All right, about 65% there. How many of you guys are stressing about school? Raise your hand if you're stressing about school. All right, that's like 100%. All right, that one's way up there. Okay, grades and school kind of go together. Peer pressure, any of that stressing y'all out? What your friends are telling you to do that you don't want to do, you feel pressured? All right, let's go about 40% on that. All right, and how many of you guys are worried about how people are treating you? That makes you worried. All right, so let's go about 50% on that one. All right, that's a good representation. How many of you guys like are worried about your future? College kind of represents what am I going to do with my future? Where am I headed? All right, so let's go about 70% on that one. All right, let's go ahead and thank these ladies for helping us out. Y'all can grab a seat. So we got a good list here of things that we worry about. Can I be honest about something I wrestle with? So what I find myself worrying about a lot is, am I good enough? Am I good enough to do the things that I need to do? Am I good enough to lead here at this church? Am I good enough to be a dad? Am I good enough to take care of my responsibilities? Am I good enough? I've got incredible people around me that I'm supposed to lead and encourage, including you guys. But so often I wonder if I have what it takes. Am I smart enough? Am I focused enough? Do I work hard enough? I feel like a lot of times I'm probably failing y'all, disappointing you. And in my own mind, I think I'm a failure, but y'all are just too nice to tell me it. These are the things that I worry about, whether they're rational or not, whether they're real or not. These are things that I worry about. Am I a failure at what I'm supposed to be good at? Worry is a part of my life. And here's what I've realized is worry can be an idol. It can be a powerful idol in our lives that can ruin our lives. It can be the boss. How many of you guys feel like at times worry becomes a boss in your life? It just takes over and it causes you to head down roads that aren't good for you. Yeah, I think we all can relate to that. And so just like in week 1, when we talked about the boss of me and selfishness, and we talked about how we need to overcome it by putting others first, by lifting others up instead of worrying about ourselves. And in week 2, we talked about the boss of stuff and thinking, if I can just have more things, then I'll finally be happy, but realizing happiness is not found in things. Joy is truly found in being satisfied and content and being even willing to give away our stuff. But tonight we're going to talk about the God of worry. And what I've chosen to represent worry is this lantern, okay? If I can get it to turn on correctly. What it does is it flashes at times. There we go. This, I think, represents worry. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you're just going about your life. You're just trying to do all right. And worry's just there, flashing in your face all the time. What if this? What if this? What if this goes wrong? What if this person thinks that? What if your hair is out of place? What if that boy doesn't like you anymore? What if you're going to get a bad grade? What if you're never going to go anywhere? What if you're going to die? What if this is... Anybody know what I'm talking about? It's just flashing incessantly. It's like, oh my gosh, just leave me alone for a second. But it won't. And it can ruin our lives. It can cause us to feel so scattered that we're not making any progress. And today, anybody else with me wanting to kill that God off in your life, wanting to get rid of this boss? Anybody with that? Okay, so tonight, Thankfully, God gets us and he knows that about us, and he's got some wisdom for us that I believe can totally transform the way that we deal with worry. So I want to start off by looking at a couple thousand years ago, a bunch of years ago, probably 7,000 years when this was written in Exodus 20. But God spoke some words to his people that are important to us today. So check it out. Exodus 20 says this, and God spoke all these words. I rescued you for a totally new life. Put me first and let me show you how great that life can be. And that message was true back then when it was given to Moses for the 10 Commandments thousands of years ago. But y'all, that's true today. Jesus is coming into our life. Jesus, if you don't have him in your life, wants to come into your life and teach you a whole new different reality and way to live that allows you to deal with things differently. But God's got to be your God. He's got to be first instead of these other bosses in your life. And the truth is, when other things get control, it leads us down a life that we don't want to have. But when God gets control, it's incredible what he brings out. And I want to talk about that in relation to worry tonight. Now, I know you might think, well, worry is not that big a deal. It's not that threatening to our lives. But I think we've already established there's a lot of things to worry about, and it's constantly bugging us, and it may have a greater impact than we realize. And so I want to talk about how we deal with it, because God has got some specific advice. Through Jesus, a couple thousand years after we read that first passage, Jesus comes to earth and he speaks this most profound sermon, message, world-changing truth that has ever existed. If you've never read the Sermon on the Mount, just open the Bible up to Matthew, read Matthew 5 through 7. It will blow your mind for the rest of your life as you plumb the depths of all that it has to teach us. But one part of that message, where Jesus is trying to teach us what life is really about in his power, he talks about worry in Matthew 6 specifically. And I want to unpack for you 3 things that worry does that hurts our lives, and Jesus' answer for how we fight back and take control of the boss of worry. So let's go ahead and let's look at Matthew 6, 25 through 27. It says, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life. Like old school language. So let's unpack it. Really what I think Jesus is saying here about worry and why it's so detrimental to our lives is worry steals our focus. Worry steals our focus. Infinite power to work through your life and overcome anything. Worry gets you focused on you. And you aren't that big. You aren't that strong. You aren't infinite in power. And so worry gets you focused on yourself. Like I said earlier, I struggle with worrying about if I'm good enough. Because the reason I do that when I'm just focused on me is I can think about all my failures. I can think about all the times I've done dumb things. I can think about all the ways that I'm not doing the right thing, or I don't know enough. And so when I'm focused on me, when worry's got me focused on me, I focus on my failures. And guess what I do when I focus on my failures? I fail more. I stay in my ruts instead of breaking free. But Jesus has a profound message to you tonight. If you find yourself worrying about something, he asks you this question: is it doing any good? Who adds one moment to their life by worrying? If you worry about getting taller, is it going to make you taller? No, worry doesn't add anything to our life. And so God, right here through Jesus, is telling me, Nate, is that worrying helping you? And I have to be honest, it's not helping me. But here's what's powerful. And here's what I love about these verses. If I take my focus off myself and I put my focus on God, things really start to change. And let me explain how. When I focus on the greatness of God instead of the limitations of me, it starts to shift the way that I approach if I'm good enough. Because if I ask the question, is God great enough to lead through me? The answer is yes. Y'all, God spoke and a universe came into existence. God conquered sin and death on our behalf. God has now sent his son so I can be in his presence, in his spirit, so it's within me. So can God lead through me? Can God do enough? The answer is yes. If I'm connecting with God's infinite wisdom, if I'm connecting with God's awesome love, if I am living in his power, can I be a good enough dad? Can I lead here? The answer is a resounding yes. Asking if God is capable to lead through me is kind of like asking if LeBron James can beat a 6-year-old in one-on-one basketball. It's obvious, yes. But the question is, do I trust God? And this is where Jesus starts to talk about a bird. Maybe you didn't quite catch that. Jesus says, when he points out that birds don't sow or reap or store away in barns, he's basically asking this: have you ever seen a bird grow their own food? Anybody? No, I mean, look at this bird up here, okay? And you think about, I think we got a picture. You think about the food that a bird eats. They don't grow it. They don't. Seeds happen. And so Jesus is saying, hey, this bird just trusts my provision. Just trusts my power. And I provide for that bird. How much more am I going to provide for you? Because you're far more valuable than the birds. And that's what I got to be honest about. A lot of times that I worry, I just don't trust God is enough for me. Even though he created me, gave me every ability that I had, and has promised me he'll take care of me. What he's saying is, do you trust my provision? So the message is clear. Worry, it's pointless. It's not bringing anything to your life, but you got a choice. You and I, we get to choose whether we're going to continue to live in worry, whether we're going to continue to let it boss our lives around, or whether we're going to say, I'm done with you, worry. I trust God to provide. I'm going to do what he's asked me to do, and that's enough for me. You know, the sad truth is, for a lot of us in here, we're Christians, but the reality is we're living like atheists. The reality is we don't actually trust that God is there for us because we worry all the time, and that's an indication that we're not choosing to give God the things that are coming at us. And so we have an opportunity every time we worry to change to trust. But that's what we got to learn more about. We got to trust his plan, his power, his presence. And I know how amazing it is for me when I actually trust him, that his love, his power begins to cover my insecurity and give me confidence and strength that it's just different, that you can't get from something else. So the first thing that worry does is it steals our focus, but there's more. Jesus goes on. In Matthew 6:28, it says, why do you worry about clothes? See how the lilies of the field grow? They do not live. Now, this one really hits home for me. I think it really hits home for us as Americans, honestly. Because the truth is, we are very image conscious, aren't we? We are so worried about the way we look. Because this is what worry does. Worry stresses over your image. Worry gets you thinking about what you dress like. I fit in? Do I have enough? Do people like the way that I look? Am I accepted? Is anyone interested in just being free of that and not having to worry about the opinions of others? Does anyone else feel the weight that causes and just want to be free? Anybody with me? Okay. Jesus got something to say to you if you want to be free tonight night. Check this out. Jesus is saying, how many of you ever have really looked at a lily? Okay, and I think we've got a picture of that lily. Can we go ahead and put that picture up? Okay, he's saying, look close. Now, that lily did not get up in the morning and say, you know what, I got to dye my lily pads because I need a better look. That lily did not think, well, does that other lily look better than me? That lily, it just exists that way. And that lily is totally unself-conscious and not worried at all about its image, and yet it is beautiful in the way that it is. How many of you guys would like to live a life that is unself-conscious? You want to live a life where you don't have to worry about your image. Jesus is saying, I've got the answer for you. Jesus is saying, yeah, that lily is stunning. It's even more stunning than the people who try so hard to be stunning. And he's saying, the lily I just provide for, I take care of. And if you'll let me, I'll take care of you. Jesus' ultimate point is that worrying so much about your look, it's ruining your life. It's worrying about something you can't control. Because when we worry about it, we're choosing to not trust that God will provide what we need for even our look. Let me explain. I know this battle really well because I was obsessed with trying to fit in, and I thought if I had the right look, then I could fit in. And so I thought about my clothes and my shoes, and I would be so concerned about that. But I had a major problem. Growing up in middle school and high school, I had zero fashion sense, okay? None. Okay, do you guys want to see proof? Okay, so here's me in actually the Grand Canyon with my dad. Okay, so I had a muscle shirt with no muscles. Like high socks with sandals, yo, okay? That was me showing out. That was me thinking I had it all together, okay? And I was just praying that somehow Nike would make me look okay, right? That somebody would like me because of what I was wearing. That was me trying really hard. Now, thankfully, I married an amazing woman who now helps dress me, so I get out the door and I don't look terrible. But I obsessed over what I look like to try to gain some sort of acceptance. But you know what happens? Is you go about your day constantly wondering what everyone's thinking and assuming they're not thinking good things. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like you can't win. Because when you're obsessed over your image, it doesn't ever actually arrive. Even people who are supposedly beautiful, you talk to them and they're like, no, this is wrong with me, this is wrong with me, because we're worried about the wrong things and we're trying to get our value out about the wrong things. Now, I want to tell you, God has thankfully changed this in me. Jesus has brought me so much freedom as I started to realize I don't have to care what y'all think. God has spoken a word over me. I'm his son. God has spoken a word over me. I'm his masterpiece that he's painting. God has spoken a word over me that I'm redeemed and I'm loved. And by the way, his opinion is not going to change tomorrow like our friends. I'm not going to get stabbed in the back by God. And as I chose to trust that he would provide for my image, that he would provide for my heart, it's like freedom started to grow in me. And that's why Jesus challenges us right here at the end of this verse where he says, hey, you of little faith. Why is he calling us people of little faith? Because he's saying that if we have little faith in what he says, it's going to cause us to be the kind of people who are desperately worried about what everyone else says. Because we trust him so little. See, for a lot of you in the room today, that's you. You have such little trust in God. You spend very little time thinking about what he has said, and you spend a ton of time thinking about what people have said online, what people have said to your face. Whether you have the right look, and you think, if I don't obsess over this and work hard at this, my life is going to fall apart, but my experience is the exact opposite. I have seen the more I trust God to provide the acceptance that I need, to provide the image that I need, the more that I allow him to define my image, the more confidence and peace that I experience. And I just want you to imagine getting up in the morning and liking what you see in the mirror. I just want you to imagine for me being free from having to have the right look or the right brands, and instead just buying what's comfortable and what you enjoy and what reflects who you are. I just want you to imagine being free from worrying about others' opinions and even being in the place where you so trust God and you so know what he says about you that when that person who's insecure because they are rips on you, you can just shake it off because it doesn't matter. You know who you are and you can love them anyways. Can you imagine living like that? Well, that's what Jesus says happens for the person who has great faith. We start to be transformed in how we think about ourselves. And I know for me, as I've gone on that journey of trusting God more and more, it's amazing how I don't need you to love me, so I actually can love you better. Because it's not contingent on how you treat me. I find my security in him. So I just want to challenge you to think, do you really trust God or do you have very little trust in God? That might be making all the difference. Now there's more that Jesus has to say. Check it out in Matthew 6:31. He says, so do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? He's kind of summarizing his whole argument. And then he says, work through these verses, I hope that you're starting to see Jesus is asking us to live different than the rest of the world lives. Have you noticed that? He's asking us to think different, to act different, to be different. Because here's another thing that worry does. Worry makes us conform. Worry makes us conform to the world around us. When you worry, you look like everybody else because everyone who is our Father, who is ultimately trustworthy, that he will provide what we need. We know that. We don't have to wonder. Now, he talks about unbelievers. They don't know that. So, of course, they're going to worry. But we as Christians, we don't have to worry because we have a Father, a creator, a sustainer who's got you. He created the life that you're experiencing. He can get you through it. So Jesus said this, and he said it at a time when people worship some crazy things. How many of y'all have studied Greek gods before? Anybody? Okay, the stories are kind of whack. Has anybody else figured that out? Okay, they are weird. They are different. The gods are not very good gods, right? And so you can see as you look back in that history, that time, that they had all kinds of sacrifices and weird things that they would do and rituals to try to please these gods to hopefully get something good out of them. And what Jesus is saying is you don't have to guess about whether God wants to be there for you and provide good things for you and help you. You know your Heavenly Father does. Now, here's the thing. There's a big difference between what we need and what we want, right? There's a big difference between what we need and what we want, right? Okay? A lot of times in our culture today, there's a lot of things we think we need that we really don't need. A lot of stuff specifically. And we talked about last week about holding that with an open hand and realizing, what if I was just content with what I had? I'd have a lot more money in my pocket, wouldn't I? I'd have a lot more to give, wouldn't I? I'd find a lot more joy, wouldn't I? But we get caught up in that lie, I need, when the truth is, the things we need most, like love and peace and purpose and direction, those are things that God provides in abundance every day. And he promises to provide the other things that we need. So don't hear me wrong. I'm not saying, hey, just trust God and you're going to get rich. But I'm saying trust God and you're going to have a rich life. But we got to trust him. That is the way we begin to change. So I want to read to you the ultimate antidote to worry that Jesus provides in the next two verses. These have become life verses for me that I come back to over and over again. And I think tonight some people are going to break free for the first time in a major way because of this truth. So is everyone with me? Everyone reading this with me? Matthew 6:33 says this, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness. And saying we defeat the God of worry when we seek God first. It's that simple and that difficult. And let me bring your life under the rule of God, where what he says goes in your life. So this is about going about our day. The way I seek God first is going about my day and saying, God, in whatever I'm going to face, when I go to school, when I'm hanging out with my friends, when I'm thinking about what I'm going to buy, when I'm thinking about what I'm going to do, I'm just going to be asking you, God, what should I do right now? What should I say right now? What should I believe about myself? What should I think about this person? It's just this dialogue. It's this relationship with God where the infinite God of the universe says, I want to be with you. I want to guide you intimately to have this amazing life that is filled with good things that you can be proud of. This is what it means to seek God first, is to love deeply, is to forgive freely, is to serve extravagantly, is to become that kind of person. That's how we seek God first, is striving to be like Jesus. But it goes on from that. And this is what's so important. Seeking God first doesn't mean we're not going to have worries. Hear me good. You're always going to have worry come at you. You can't control that worry comes at you. You can't control what you get attacked by in this world. You can't control that. What you can control is what you do with it. This is what's going to change some lives tonight. Listen to me very carefully. You cannot control whether worry is going to come into your life. You got to take control of what you do with it when it comes. Let me explain this to you. 1 Peter 5, 6 through 7 unpacks this reality that is so life-changing for me. It says this, humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may... God is saying worry is going to happen. Anxiety is coming at you, y'all. It's inevitable. But what you get to do with it makes all the difference. Understand, God just made you a promise. God made you a promise. You have no right having any promises from God, but he loves you so much, he's willing to make you a promise. And here's what it is. I'll lift you up. My mighty power, I'll lift you up. If you come to me, that's what it means to be humble, to say, I need help. If you come to me, and what do? You cast your cares on him. It's like that worry comes at you and you throw it at God and you say, God, help me with this. So what do we see up here? We see a lot of things. A lot of y'all are stressing about grades and about school. This used to be me all the time. Worried about my grades. Let me just set you free. You don't have to worry about your grades. Now let me explain what that means. You come to God and you say, God, I'm stressed about my grades. Here's his response. The results are not up to you. What you're good at or not good at, not up to you. I gave you certain gifts. I gave you certain abilities. But here's what he asks of you. Give all you got. Give all your effort. And this was freshman year of college for me. It was a game changer for me. When God came to me and showed me I don't have to worry at all about my grades. Because if I just give my best effort at math, which I suck at math, okay? Like simple addition is hard for me. I'm like, 8 plus 12 is what? Oh, yeah, okay, maybe it's 20. Okay, I'm not kidding. I'm not good at it. But if I will just put in my best effort, the results are out of my hands. It's up to him. And so it takes that stress away. I don't have to worry about what I can't control, the results. I just have to worry about giving my heart to it. Does that make sense? So I take that worry that comes at me and I throw it back to God. It's like every single time that light flashes at you, it just reminds you this is another thing to talk to God about. This is another thing to pray to God about. When that worry comes flying at you about what those people think about you, you turn directly to God and you say, I want to throw this care on you, God. Right now I'm worried what these people who are looking at me weird think. Right now it's stressing me out, God. I need your strength. I need you to help me believe it doesn't matter what they think. And just let it go because you love me. And that's what matters. So this whole thing about seeking God first is not ignoring your worries. Instead, it's saying when worries come up, I'm going to go to God with them and I'm going to get his power and get his strength and watch him lift me up. So what is it for you? What's your worry? Like I said, for me, it can be worrying about not being good enough. And it's so good for me to be able to go to God and say, God, even though I feel like I'm not good enough, I give you that worry because I know you're good enough. And as I do that, I'm trusting him. As I do that, he's building my strength. And guys, I can tell you, ladies, I can tell you, the hard things that come at you that used to stress you out, you're going to find more and more like, I'm okay. I don't know why I'm okay. I shouldn't be okay. I should be losing my flipping mind. I said flipping, but I'm not. No, listen. Hey, y'all, I have 5 kids, okay? I have a full-time job and a part-time job. I have a lot of things on my plate here at church, but God just shows me if I'll trust him, he'll give me this peace that transcends understanding as I seek him and trust him with what comes at me. Does that make sense? So tension, trial, struggle, it's coming. Worry's coming. But God says, throw it at me. Let me hold it and trust my strength to get you through. So would you guys close your eyes? I want to give you a chance here tonight to practice this. What did you think of when I asked what worries you? What came up to your mind? And with your eyes closed, I want you to imagine Jesus sitting right there with his hands open. And I want you to hold in your hands the thing that is stressing you out, the thing that's worrying you. And I want you to tell God about it right now. Just tell him what's stressing you out. Tell him what's giving you anxiety. Tell him what you're worried about. Just go ahead right now. Don't distract anyone else around you. Don't talk to anyone else around you. This is just you and God. Don't distract them from spending this time with God, okay? And now I want you, as you're telling him about it, to imagine putting it in his hands and saying, God, I trust you. I trust you to take this from me. I trust you to give me strength in this. So I want you in your mind to see yourself taking it and putting it in his hands. And now I want you to ask God for strength to trust him and strength to push through that test or to push through that broken relationship. Whatever it is, now you go to him and you ask him for strength to change it. What is it for you? Ask him for the strength. All right, y'all can look up at me. What if you just did that over and over and over again? You know what? Worry will then become the thing that draws you to God like never before. Can you imagine how strong your trust with God will be if you did that every single time a worry came at you? You just imagine it in your hands. You told God about it. You handed it off to him. You said, you take it. Now give me the strength to walk through this. I promise you, God will change you in mighty ways. And we will crush the God of worry. And we'll come alive like never before. Let me pray. Jesus, thank you for your time, this time that we've had to think about this thing called worry. And we ask, God, that as worry comes at our lives, it's inevitable. That instead of getting overwhelmed by it and dwelling on it, that every time it comes at us, we'd just respond with prayer. We'd respond with casting that anxiety on you and asking for the strength to be different, to walk through it different, to do the good that you would do. And I pray that as we do, we would just see awesome things happen in us and through us. In your name we pray, Jesus. Amen. Hey, y'all, before we get a chance to go up to small groups, I want to say to you that if tonight you feel like God has been stirring something up in you, and you're like, man, I need more of this in my life, I need more time like this in my life, I hope you're coming to All In. Because you and God could go to some new places, some deep places. And how many of you would say you got brokenness in your life? You got things that are broken, you've been hurt, you've been pain. This entire weekend is about what God can do through our brokenness. Not just for us, but for others, people around us. So we really hope that you'll join us. Jack's going to come up here and make a quick announcement, and then we're going to be out of here.
So just real quick, I'm going to talk to high school students real fast. The deadline for our influencer leadership program is today. So today is the last day, high school students to apply. We'd love for you to be part of this, to be developed as a leader. Middle school students, this is something that you get to look forward to here in the coming years. But high school students, we'd love for you to be a part of that. Please, please, please sign up today. Thank you all so much. You can head to small groups. If you don't know where you're going, come find me. Seventh graders, Eloy, or Chung. Seventh grader, come here.